Hello and welcome back to Planet 40k. How's everyone doing? So another poll was placed on our Patreon last week to determine the next review that we're going to be doing within the Necron Codex. So the Ghost Ark was voted by our supporters over there, so that's the topic for the day. If you've yet to check out our Patreon service, pause the video and have a peek. There's all sorts of benefits to being a Patreon member there. We're still a fairly new service over there, so we're putting in a lot of time for our current members that we have. So now's a really good time to jump on board and be one of our founding members of Planet 40k. So yeah, take a look. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll deal with any of your queries. Okay, as for the Ghost Ark then, it comes under the transport section of the Codex. So in all the detachments, you're required to take one infantry unit for each transport vehicle that you have in the detachment itself. Otherwise, you're going to need to purchase an auxiliary detachment for each one you take, which will cost you 2 CP per unit. Although it's very rare that you take one and don't have any infantry units within the list and want a transport on top. Okay, so the Ark comes in at 145 points for a single model or 8 power if you're playing power. Starting us off with the keywords that the Arks have then, they can go into any dynasty. They've got the quantum shielding keyword, they are a transport, they're a vehicle and they can fly. So most of these keywords are going to come up at some point within the video. As for the stat line itself, movement 12 inch, weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 6, toughness 6, wounds 14, attacks 3, leadership 10 and a 3+ save. So the Ark does have a degrading stat line. The 3 stats that are affected are the movement, the ballistic skill and the attacks. So on to the abilities. Living Metal, which is pretty good for a model with 14 wounds, giving it a lost wound at the start of each turn. Command Protocols, which is our Necron version of combat doctrines, although it's a tad more unreliable due to the order of protocols needing to be predetermined before the game actually begins. However, there is a bit of flexibility as each command protocol will give you 2 options to select from called directives. They've got the quantum shielding ability, which is actually quite nice as it's not only just a 5+ in-run save, but it also means the model can't be wounded on a 1, a 2 or a 3. So to simplify this, so anything that has a higher strength than the Ark's toughness, which is 6, will not be able to roll on 3s or even 2s. It will always be a roll of a 4+ to get through. It's got the hovering ability, which has the technicality to clear up some rolls. So it's where distances are measured from either the hull or the base, whichever is closer. So this model in particular has a very long hull in comparison to its base. In fact, if you had the plastic support that holds the Ark up right at the back of the Ghost Ark, then the actual hull sticks out approximately 3 to 4 inches further than the base. So this has cleared up a few gamey scenarios. Next I've got an ability called Repair Barge, which is pretty good for your warriors. So it auto reanimates D3 warriors in your command phase each turn. That's for units that are within 6 inches. Then finally it can explode once destroyed on a roll of a 6, and anything within 6 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. So that's the abilities it has, the Repair Barge being the unique ability of the bunch, and it's possibly one of the reasons you're actually fielding a Ghost Ark. So on to the weapons then. So the Ghost Ark is equipped with 2 Gorse Flayer arrays. So each one has the following stats. So the range is 24 inch, rapid fire 5, strength 4, -1 AP and 1 damage. So effectively it's the same weapon that a warrior holds, except it has 10 shots. So it's like a 10-man warrior squad in terms of weaponry. It's a very standard strength 4, but that -1 AP is quite useful. So I'll do a quick breakdown for you just to give you an idea of their damage output. So if you're within rapid fire range and you're shooting 20 shots at ballistic skill 3, on average you're going to be hitting 13.3 of those. Against toughness 3, on average you're going to wound about 8.9 of those. Against toughness 4 it's about 6.7. Against toughness 5 right up to toughness 7 you're going to get about 4.4 on average there. Then against toughness 8 you're going to need 60, so only about 2.2 wounds are going to go through there. It is a -1 AP weapon, so most units will still have a half decent armor save. Now if you're playing against Orc Boys and other 6+ armor save units, then you're going to flat out kill about 7 of them in a round of shooting. However, against Primaris Marines, putting them down to a 4+ save, you're only going to kill about 1 or even 2 models per turn. So obviously works really well against those weaker units, but Marine units are more of a premium, so there's nothing wrong with taking 1 or 2 of them off the board per turn. Now there's no upgrade options here, so they come as they come. What you see is what you get, as they say. Moving into some synergy within the Codex. So firstly looking at the Stratagems. You've got a stellar alignment for 1 CP, although only required if you urgently need the gore shots popping off at ballistic skill 3. It basically allows the Ark to be considered to have full wounds remaining for the purpose of its damage table. So rather than ballistic skill 4 or even ballistic skill 5, you will be ballistic skill 3 when firing in that phase, so it's very situational this one, but keep it in mind for a rainy day. Curse of the Pharaon for 1 CP lets your Ark auto explode rather than trying to roll a 6 for it. It's pretty good as your Ghost Ark will want to be mid-range or even up close due to the rapid fire needing a 12 inch to double tap. You also may be transporting warriors, especially warriors armed with those 12 inch Reapers. I'll speak a little bit more about this at the end of the video, but your ARK can be used to tie up shooter units as it's a very survivable unit and it will shut down anything that can't fall back and shoot. Quantum Deflections for 1 CP puts your 5-up invuln save to a 4-up for the phase, that's pretty nice. Solar Pulse removes enemy cover for 1 CP, that can be useful. Then you've got Reconstitution Protocols for 1 CP, it's done in your command phase and it allows you to repair D6 warriors rather than the D3 with your repair barge. So this one's an awesome stratagem, each warrior not only costing 13 points, but it's also going to aid your reanimation in general, because if the unit does get wiped out then it can't reanimate at all, so keeping them up and running is always helpful. Moving into some of the dynasty codes and their own special stratagems next. The Mephric code gives your flays an extra 3-inch range. It's also going to help with your rapid fire. Also, if you do shoot within half range, then it's an additional -1 AP, so shooting at 14-inch range due to the increased range will actually be a -2 AP now. So it's really starting to break through that marine armour. They do have Talent for Annihilation as their stratagem, which is any 6s to wound score a mortal wound on top, but I'd rather put that on a large warrior unit if they're on the table. There's more chances of scoring a 6. Nova adds 1 to its charge roll. Now as mentioned, this model can be quite useful at bogging down a shooter unit, so getting into combat does help. You also do get a -1 AP modifier if you charged or were charged. However, this thing only hits on 6s with only 3 attacks, so it's not really going to do any damage. It's more to prevent your army from being damaged. The Nihilate codes grants you objective secured. Now putting this on a 14 wound model with an invuln save and living metal is quite effective, and your opponent will have to do a lot to shift it from the objective. The Zwalkan code gives you a 5-up vulnerable pain against mortal wounds, so it may help as you're likely to be pushed up the battlefield. There's going to be a lot of potential smites coming your way. The code also has a stratagem called Empiric Damping for 1 CP, which effectively makes the ARK a Deny the Witch Psyker. On a 4+, you're going to deny a psychic power. The Celtic code lets you rapid fire at 18-inch range instead of 12-inch range, so this one's good for your middle of the board ARKs to get into a bit of range and still be further back. If you don't want to select the main dynasty codes, then you can go custom. So from the Dynastic Traditions list, the only one that's useful here is the Eternal Conquerors for objective secured. Then from the Circumstances of the Awakening list, you've got Healthy Paranoia adding 3-inch to your weapons, Relentlessly Expansionist to give that 6-inch pre-game move, or Isolationists, which helps your rapid fire weapons that are within 12-inch range, making them a strength 5. I'd probably go with Eternal Conquerors along with Isolationists, as I'd want my ARK up the board distracting and trying to pinch objectives while firing strength 5 Gauss at the infantry around. In fact, I'd probably choose this combo over the main dynasties if the decision was purely based on how my Ghost ARK does. Now of course you need to look at the bigger picture here and look at the entire list first, but if it does fit the rest of the list then it's a pretty nice combination. As for unit synergy, the most obvious one here is the Warriors. The ARK being able to heal D3 a turn and even D6 with a stratagem is really good. Warriors are also pretty good in this edition, so flanking your Ghost ARK with tons of warriors to get the best out of that. Now there is a slight issue here which I was going to save for the conclusion, but I may as well mention this now. The transport capacity for the Ghost ARK is only 10 warriors. Now I only really take warriors in blobs of 20 purely for that reanimation protocols being most effective on larger units. One unit of 10 is quite easy to wipe out. Now if you did just take 10 and put them inside, then of course they aren't going to be firing their weapons for at least a turn. And the warriors inside have the choice of 2 weapons. They've either got the Gorse Flayers or the Gorse Reapers. Now the Gorse Flayers are 24-inch range, so they don't really need to be transported up the board to be fired. And they definitely don't want to be getting up close and personal with the enemy because they don't want to be in combat. So this only really leaves your 10-man unit of warriors with the Reapers that are only 12-inch range. But there are a few other ways of getting blobs of 20 of them into close range, such as the Veil of Darkness or a Night Scythe. Moving away from the warriors, there's another nice combo that involves a Technomancer. Now, those Cryptex have rights of reanimation which auto-reanimate D3 warriors per turn, so pairing this with a repair barge is effectively 2 D3 warriors per turn. They can also take the Canoptic Cloak to heal your Ghost ARK D3 wounds per turn as well, so keeping everything alive and ticking over nicely. And of course the Technomancer is a character, so it can't be targeted until all the warriors and the Ghost ARK are dead. You can take this even further, giving your Technomancer a piece of Arcana, which would be the Hypermaterial Ablator for 25 points. Pretty much always gives your nearby warriors light cover, so effectively a 3+ save. Now they could naturally get cover within their own terrain, but hiding a 20-man warrior blob in cover isn't always that easy. So yeah, the Technomancer synergizes quite nicely with your ARK as well as the warriors. The Canoptic Spiders also work well with both your Technomancer and the Ghost ARK because they can take the Fabrication Claw to heal the vehicle D3 wounds per turn. They're also really good in combat, especially with that strength 8 melee weapon with 5 attacks, so they can defend your other nearby units pretty well. And they also work well with scarabs for that added protection, so there's a lot of synergy going on there. It's worth mentioning at this stage that the character infantry models can also go inside the ARK, maybe to protect them if they're close to dying, or just a late game sprint up the board inside your flying ARK to get them to a key location for some points, or just to strengthen your guys in a slugfest. So conclusion time, I really love the model. In fact, some of you will know that I've recently built one up. They are a pain in the bum to build, but once it's done they do look fantastic. Now I didn't magnetize mine, I probably should have, because you can magnetize it into a Doomsday ARK when needed. Now in old editions, the Ghost ARKs didn't see much play because of the way the reanimation protocols worked, but now in 9th edition it's going to get solid use again, I believe, as dead warriors don't just get up every turn like they used to. So there's only actually a few methods of getting dead models back now. One being the Resurrection Orb, another being Rites of Reanimation that some of the HQs have, and the third being the Ghost ARK itself. Now combining 2 or even 3 of these is a really strong combination. As for other uses for the ARK, I don't see this much as a transport unit. I'm never going to be transporting warriors with it. Now let me know in the comments if you do actually transport with it. I see it more as a distraction tank that repairs your guys and being a nuisance at the same time. Especially if it's got objectives secured with Nihilite Code or Eternal Conquerors. Now a 14 wound model with toughness 6 and an invuln and living metal on top is extremely hard to shift, and it can't really be ignored this edition as primary objectives are vital. So it's really going to be aiding the rest of your army's survivability within the game. The 10 Gorse Flays will pick off models throughout the game, which is nice as it's making its points back up. It's not going to kill 145 points worth, but it may do half that. So then you're really only paying 70 to 80 points for the model, which is also repairing either D3 or D6 warriors per turn. I mean, just the D3 warriors per turn is an average of 2 warriors per turn, which equates to 26 points in a turn. So within 3 turns it's made up the other 70 to 80 points back. So points for points is actually a really good investment. Looking at their rating, now when I first began writing for this video, I had in my head that the unit is going to be around a 2.5, but after what I've just concluded, it's so much better than I thought. It's either scoring points or distracting your opponent. It's doing a small but a fair amount of damage each turn. It's reviving warriors, and it can be used as a battering ram tank to tie up shooty units. Like imagine a Marine Devastator unit being stuck in combat with one of these. Okay, there are stratagems to allow them to fall back and fire, but it's rinsing your opponent's command points and making them make decisions that they don't want to make. So for the rating, I'm going to be giving the Ghost ARK a Planet 40k rating of 3.5 out of 5. Now I would like to say a 4, but that would put them on par with Deathmarks and Lich Guard, who are doing a lot more of the dog work within the battle. So I think a 3.5 is okay, which is above average. Let me know what you think below. I'd be interested in seeing your opinions on this one, as I've not really ever gone into a video thinking that they're going to be rated one thing and coming out of the video giving them something completely different. So let me know in the comments below what you think. So guys and girls, don't forget to check out our Patreon service for those early access videos and polls and all that other good 40k related stuff. It massively helps in funding the channel, so take a look at that if you can. You can find us on both Twitter and Instagram, to where at some point in 2021 we are going to begin doing giveaways to our followers and patrons. So give us a follow on both of those to keep on top of that. Also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Then finally, remember to like the video on the way out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.